For over 40 years, SCM
has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government
come together.
To call the meeting for the Open Space Stewardship and Policies Work Group for January 8th meeting to order. And we have Marjorie Richards, me, and Susan Sino, and Karen Corden, and Tom Taberski. Is Helen on the phone?
I'm here, but I don't have, how do I get my picture up?
The little video camera on the side, the little video icon looks like a little camera.
I'm on my desktop, so where would that be?
Oh, unless you can't.
Yeah, Helen's online. She just isn't might not have
that's
a
all
camera.
right. You probably don't have a camera. All right. So
I'm not on yet, but I don't see where I'm supposed to push a button.
Yeah, it might be that your laptop doesn't have a camera.
Yeah, don't worry, Helen. We know you're here.
That's okay. We know you're here.
If I need to speak, I'll just have to speak up rather than raise my hand. Okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.
All right. Oops. All right. So the first item is the discussion of the non-deed restriction portion of Meadowood property. And this was I know well, several of the staff have gone out to see this site. Tom, have you been out there?
I have. Yeah, I'm aware of. I missed the day that you guys walked it, but I have spoken to Doug Beach and I've spoken to the planning department about your talk with them.
Yeah, so I went out. What was just after the manure was spread? That was memorable. Out there to walk the property with Brittany and George. So it was interesting to see the site before the crops were growing, and I'd been out there with Doug Beach, who had brought it to our attention that perhaps the land that had been set aside, I think it's 24 acres that have been set aside for the town use, which was in the corner of the farm field, the present farm field. But Doug Beach pointed out that there was another section, and on this map over by E is the area that's set aside for the town use. But there's area around G and F that could be used instead. And the points that Doug Beach makes is that, it's from a visibility point of view along Hoskins, it's a nice view. It's also farmland. It needs to be improved, but it's good farmland. And the area, if you were able to take a tour, the area around G and part of F, especially around G, the land is not. It looks like it's been stripped of all its soil. It's pretty fallow. It's very sandy.
That's the area when they did the cleanup, the site cleanup.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of I don't know if it was the mixing took place, but that it's an area pretty much devoid of topsoil. It's mostly I would relate it to a sand pit more than anything else.
It is. And Doug Beach's suggestion was, keep as much farmland as we possibly can and put the proposed, town use, possibly soccer fields. I don't know what else the town has in mind for it. put that back in the section where the grass has already been stripped, or the plants have already been stripped, the soil's been stripped. So it's something that we brought forward for the Conservation Commission. We're going to plan a site visit out to look at it. But it's something I think open space should be involved in, especially since, it does involve all the different land use boards. But, we're going to be going out and seeing here what the feasibility of this is and looking at it. And I just wanted to bring it to open space because it is an open space issue for town open space.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you say that you want to switch F for E?
Or E for G and part of F.
You want to switch E for G and F?
G and part of F, yes.
Part of F.
Yeah.
So the parcel would be landlocked, like, so to speak, like G?
No, well, I think it's also part of I. It's that section up by County Line Road. So it'd be accessible by County Line Road instead of Hoskins.
Okay, my other question is, isn't parcel E put aside, that's 24 acres, and that was put aside for town use?
Yes.
And that was for fields?
It was proposed in the literature that the town distributed ahead of the referendum on the purchase of the Meadowwood property. It was mentioned as a possible future use for athletic fields, possible future use. The town, because it's on deed restricted, the town could choose to do whatever it wants with it. If the town at some point in the future decided they wanted to sell it, they could sell it. If they wanted to build a school on it, they could build a school on it. There's, the athletic field future athletic fields was listed as the possible future use. I was one of the ones behind who asked for that parcel to be set aside for that future use, knowing that we had an athletic field crunch in town, and also chose that field. I apologize, we have skating lessons here today, so you can hear the children in the background. That part of the field was chosen because it was relatively flat, because it was along the main road of Hoskins, which is a little bit more of a main road than County Road is, and then also it abuts that gray area right below it on your screen. That's the what was once a neighborhood park behind Clifton Drive. So it was made adjacent. We chose an area adjacent to that to make the most out of. If we ever did something, it would be the best of both worlds. We'd have both parcels to use, whether it's E for fields and the gray area for parking or overflow parking if needed, or to revamp as a park, other amenities at that park. That's why we chose that particular part, because it was adjacent to an existing area that's not necessarily open space. It was a neighborhood park in the 70s and 80s, and kind of has just, now we just mow it a couple of times a year. But in full transparency, there's no designated town use for it at this time. The town could choose to do whatever they want with it, or whatever it would like to do with it. It's not deed restricted to agricultural uses like the rest of the property is.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I was going to just ask you, Marjorie. You were trying to explain something before, but I wasn't relating to it at that point. Now you may have to repeat some things for me if that's what you were doing. If that is the case, what is the argument for, switching to that other area? Was that what you were trying to explain before?
Yes. Well, part of the reason for switching it is that E is already being farmed at the moment. So it is, and hopefully the soil is being improved through that farming. The area G is not farmable. The soil is no longer there. So if we're, to build a soccer field or whatever, it still could be done there. It's fallow land. There's nothing that can be done on it. There are a variety of reasons for putting it back there. But before this becomes a gleam in someone's eye, what they want to do with it, this is the time to discuss which parcel of land the town can have. And it's sort of a swap, 24 acres for 24 acres. It would allow more agricultural land. It is, I can understand Tom's point. It's next to that little park. I'm wondering why we mow it. But this is an idea that a citizen has brought up for us, because I don't think there's anything that can be done on that G section, but it could be a very well drained field. It could be, both fields, even E has a slope to it. Doug Beach, who has been involved with golf course construction and all the rest, he thinks that even E is not as level as one would think. There'd be a lot of grading on that site as well. So if you're going to be grading, you might as well grade the site that's not agricultural land.
Of course. Now, my next question is, that is more ideal as far as the soils are concerned. But if you put field or fields in G, how do you access it? Would you be destroying fertile land, farmable land, in order to have access plus parking?
No, the land back there, and I think this is something that it would require a field trip on our parts. The land back in G is not fertile at all. They might be taking some of F, but the land in E is arable. The land in G, and G is, even though it's, I don't know why it's in that configuration. I don't know why it doesn't take out up to the border. There are some wetlands there, but I don't know that they go up to that road. It would still be accessible in the back as opposed to the Hoskins Road. It would still be accessible. County line's fine.
Okay, so you've answered my accessibility question. Is there otherwise valuable land that would be required for parking that would be taken?
I don't think so. Again, it would have to be looked at. This is just something I'm bringing up. This is a proposal. It would require more study. But I don't think so. Looking at going out there, it's a bit of a sand, as Tom says, a sort of little sand dune area. There's not much growing there. So it wouldn't be a big loss to develop that land, as it was already stripped. And it's not destroying a valuable habitat, shall we say?
Well, my final comment, and then I'm anxious to hear what the rest of you say. If anything is done to this effect, as a committee member, now have you approached the other committees that have to be involved in this kind of decision? And if not, if we are the first, because of the obvious reason you brought it to us, I would not be prepared to say yes or no at this point. I would like to say yes or no, but I'm not prepared. So I'm thinking, is it possible that we could respond by saying to be determined once we've learned more information?
This is early in the process. This is just bringing it forward for discussion. The Conservation Commission is going to take, as we brought it up at Conservation Commission, the Conservation Commission members are going to go out and look at the property, but it would require more than that. It would require a little bit more like survey work just to check it out. It would also require, Tom's input and the town staff input, and to see whether this is feasible before it's put forward as a viable proposition. But it's something that, it was, I think, I don't know how E was determined. Was it just everyone said it's pretty flat, it'd make a good site for something?
I remember I remember somewhat, if I may interject, how E was determined. I think it was determined by those particular things that I brought up just now, accessibility and parking.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you could get parking over by G as well. I mean, it's,
Okay.
and I'm
Okay.
sure you could also get it, it'd be accessible by, county line. You know, on the original Meadowood, proposal, there was access through county road. And it would be, you know, for soccer, if it was for soccer, it would still, you know, I mean, county line is a fine road. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing superior about Hoskins to, you know, to County Line Road.
Well,
So it's something I thought that I wanted to bring forward to the Open Space Committee to explore the opportunity of changing the site out so it's not farmland. You know, it's a wonderful view shed right there. And it is agricultural land as opposed to the area in the back, which is not agricultural land. It seemed like, you know, might make sense.
Well, being unable to walk it at the time that it was, you know, that would have been the opportunity for me to understand. I've had to take other people's words and then for the information by just looking at a map. So I do have to ask these questions because I'm probably the least informed because I wasn't able to be there in person. So I stand a question. That's it.
Yeah, no, this is why I'm bringing it up, and it would be, you know, it would require a site visit, and you know, I mean, when you look at a map and you divide things up, it's one thing. When you go out and look at the site, you think, you know, that maybe if we swapped it out, it might be a better use of land. But that's for the whole group to determine, and for the facts, you know, a survey, see if it's feasible, and see if the town is willing to do that. But you know, this is something that I thought Open Space should look at.
I thought of something else. When you mentioned the word process just now, I would like us to see, is it what we normally use for process in our deliberation, or is there a process for this that might be slightly different? I'd like to be able to see that.
Well, yes, Susan.
Well, I would say there's probably no process for this specifically because Marjorie's proposing a swap, not a disposition, and we don't have a process for a swap.
Okay.
But I think that we could use a modified disposition kind of data form to make the rationale for a swap if we think we should do that. And I have a couple of questions and points, but I just wanted to interject that point about the process because I don't think we have one, but I think I think if we want to do it, we need to make a good case for it, right? So that's kind of what we would need to do.
Or if we don't want to do it, we need to make a good case.
Exactly. We need to look into it. Yeah.
How did it go to the Conservation Commission? Did someone bring it to you, or did you internally come up with this?
We have been contacted by Doug Beach, who sent these reports, and it was, you know, and I told him that we would bring it up for discussion at the Conservation Commission.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I'm ready to hear others, because I can understand.
Susan.
Yeah, I have my hand up because I have kind of a couple of things. First of all, I didn't really know about this until Marjorie brought it up, but I have been you know, aware of the real interest from Hartford Audubon. They've been out there a bunch of times. They're really excited about what they've been finding out there. They're very interested in helping the town with the property. So they've really taken you know, the town is really benefiting from their interest in this property. And and I just want to slightly retract my previous thing. I think there is something in the disposition form about a swap, basically, but it's kind of funny because we're sort of swapping it with ourselves as the town. So that's just a clarification about that. And then I wanted to add, so in terms of I would call this the small picture part, I think it would be helpful if we could know when the Conservation Commission trip is in case people can go and they wanted to go. And then also, if it might be possible, you sort of described that it would be kind of a part of F and G and I kind of along that edge, I assume. So maybe it might be good to sort of scope out what that 24 acres were. So, or what would be the 24 acres that would make sense so that people can kind of wrap their brains around that. I know it's early, but I'm just saying, I think these would be like little key things, even if it's just drawn on a map. So in like the small picture, point, I'm, nominally in favor of this because, first of all, I know that you would be doing your due diligence. I know Hartford Audubon has been doing a lot of work on this. And I had always kind of wondered why the E, and I don't know what the other letter is. I think it's just a gray area down there. So I know it's like we kind of wanted to sort of have diverse opportunities on a piece of land that big. And so this was identified as an area for a different opportunity than just open space. But in particular, that park that we mow a couple of times a year would be a phenomenal place for like a food forest or something like that, that doesn't need to be mowed all the time and could have more diverse plants and all that kind of stuff. And there's grants for that. So I'd always kind of thought that would be like the perfect place for a use like that. So if we wanted to keep that end, E and gray blob, for kind of farming and agriculture, we could think of, extending the farm, using the farming that's there now on E and maybe doing something kind of, interesting with the gray part. I know that aside from fields, there was also, there's been talk of putting some housing there. And, just in another kind of, I guess I could call this a big picture idea. If we put housing there, near the agriculture, it would be really the best thing to do would be to put kind of housing that's related to the agriculture, right? So have housing for people that are related to farming that land. And right now we have the land is all leased to one farmer, but what our goal of the open space committee when we wrote our farm policy was to try and make farmland available to more people and to younger people to have them get into farming. So you see what I'm saying? We could kind of solve multiple problems at the same time if we think of about a more integrated approach. And that could still be true with the food forest and agriculture and that, whatever happens, with that, adding that piece there. And we could see what we wanted to do with the, do we need soccer fields? Do we need housing? Do we need something else? Do we want to wait and decide? But I mean, you should always save land for its highest and best use. And if it's prime farmland that hasn't been stripped of its soil, that's much better land to save than the land that has been stripped. So that's all my ideas, thoughts.
Thank you for all that, Susan. That's helpful. Could you enlighten me with one more answer? How or who pulled up this schematic at the beginning? I do remember seeing it, but I don't remember who prepared the schematic.
This was in
Doug Beach from the Audubon Society created this map.
Okay. Thank you.
The base map might be related to the Trust for Public Land or some of the prior work on Meadowwood, and he probably kind of adapted it to kind of make the points that he wants to make for this. I suspect that, but or maybe the application to DEEP for the agricultural easement. So I think what would need to happen is we would need to make the case not just to the town, and I don't know what the right order would be, if we want to do this, we need to make the case to the town land use boards and also to DEEP about this agricultural swap, right?
I'm not sure if
So
it's,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
You know, give me 1 second, Marjorie. I did speak to the Trust for Public Land representative today, who we
Okay.
worked with to purchase the property, just to make sure I had, some information in case the question came up. So if the town internally would have to decide whether this is something that they chose to do, and if that's the case, the town would reach out to using contacts from the Trust for Public Land. We would reach out to the Connecticut Farmland Preservation Commission or department, I guess, or whatever they are, because they were the ones who grant that deed restricted property is under their purview. So we would have to we would have to suggest to them, this is what we want to do, and then work through them to get that swap. Now, in their mind, from the Trust for Public Land perspective and the work they did on this, they recall that E and F had comparable soils, so that they don't necessarily think that there would be a lot of roadblocks from the from the Connecticut Farmland Preservation Program. And they've seen similar swaps. It doesn't happen often, but there's been similar swaps in the past that they're aware of. If the Farmland Preservation Program is amenable to the swap, there would have to be surveys done, rewriting the legal description of the property, and then ultimately the Attorney General, who is the Connecticut Attorney General's office, has to sign off as the state's caretaker of the caretaker of the state's interest in the property, that he would have to ultimately, or he or she would have to ultimately sign off on any swap. So that kind of lays out some of the steps, but internally the town has to decide, coming from the town manager or from the Board of Selectmen, that's where the inquiry would need to come from after we've decided internally this is something we wanted to do or not.
yeah, so it's not impossible. It's cumbersome. Depends how much the town wants it. But my perspective, going out and looking at the site, it just seems a shame to use E when it is agricultural lands, and although F is as well, but part of G certainly is not. So it might, from an ecological or a farming point of view, I think from a farming point of view, I think that would be a better swap. So anyway, it's just, this is something that, Doug Beach is, interested in pursuing, seeing if the town is interested in pursuing before blueprints or building plans are ever, before it's been determined what exactly E is going to be used for. This would be the time to do it before we get down the road. It just seemed like we hadn't had much discussion on Meadowwood up until now, so I just thought it was time to bring this up, and we can see if we can move forward with this at any, see if it makes sense.
And Mark, I don't have a button to raise because I'm on a phone, so I have no controls, but excuse me, if there's a time when anybody's going to go out and do another site assessment or review, I'd love to go with you, because I can't picture it as well as if I have a chance to walk it with somebody. So let me know and I'll join you.
So, and that's, that was not a site all of us got to walk, because it was, it belonged to other people, and, before the referendum, it was
right.
It's someone else's land. So I had never walked it before, so I found it very illuminating. But yes, we were trying to figure out when we do the conservation sidewalk. And if the days are too short to do it before a conservation meeting right now. So I've made a note to myself that we will invite open space to that meeting, that sidewalk as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if we invite open space, can we make sure to invite the whole committee?
Yes.
Mention again, really want to make sure that the whole committee, maybe we can put a disclaimer on the work group invites and say, this is a work group, but the whole committee is welcome to attend, so that people know it's a work group and not a full meeting. I'm really trying to understand why we can't send everyone the information.
Yeah, I don't
And
want
it just
it to
gets
go-
left off the track all the time, so.
Yeah, I don't
just
want this to
putting
go
out-
to just
Putting
a
that out
work.
there again, exactly.
Well, let me come into that discussion for a minute, if I may. I did not receive notice for this meeting today. And when I called this morning to say that I had not received an agenda or notice for this meeting, they said that well, Franklin asked me, well, do you usually um, go to these meetings? And I said, yes, I do. I said, but that's not the point. I said, I thought I understood that these meetings would be posted to the entire open space committee and noted on and with and you know, agenda everything. And he said he would take it up with Tom Fitzgerald again. I thought that was settled once and for all, because we've been having that problem uh, for over a year now, 2 years. And with other aspects of, you know, Marjorie, you had mentioned in your note for this meeting about public audience, and that's also been a question that I thought was settled. So I I was told by Franklin that I should bring this up. So I'm mentioning it now because you just mentioned it, and then we can go back to to the the question at hand and discuss this later if you wish. But let's be sure.
Helen, I did write in about the public audience issue because we could, I mean, it's our meeting, we could decide whatever we want to do, but traditionally we had been having public audience at the full meeting, but not at the work group meeting. I mean, probably no one would come, but so that's what I thought was the schedule. So there wasn't necessarily properly supposed to be public audience at this meeting, but everyone definitely, you definitely should have received this, and the whole committee should be receiving this, because how are people going to keep up with what's going on if no one ever gets the information?
Well, that's why I brought it up, and Franklin said he would take it to Tom. I think Maxudis should also have it. She's the chair. But I thought it was settled, and I just want to be sure it doesn't keep happening.
Well, certainly for the conservation field trip, I think it would be beneficial to have the whole committee and not make it a work group invitation, because we want Parks and Rec, we want zoning, we want planning, we want the whole group there for their insights.
Yeah, we can call it a multi-board meeting or something.
Yeah, joint.
They have a tri-board meeting for finance, education, and board of selectmen. We can call it a multi-board. It'd be like pinball, multi-ball.
And I thought we could add public audience even to the work groups, because if someone sees something on the agenda, because the agendas are posted, if they see something on the agenda and they want to bring something forward to us, it'd be good to have more voices than not. So, I mean, I doubt very much anyone's going to come to these meetings, but if they do, they probably have something that they want to say.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. I think that's a good idea.
They at least need to see the agendas. And if they, number one, they might be interested in an agenda in a given month or a given meeting. And that also would be a reason, but they need to know what we're talking about.
So I will let you know when the field trip is, when we're scheduling that. And then we can go out and see, but take a look at the site. Hopefully before the
Given what we've been talking about, does it mean now that this subcommittee has to bring this subject up to the full committee meeting before any opinion or whatever goes forward? Or should we, in this group, put together an opinion and then it must be reviewed by the full committee?
Well, conservation is going to try to make an opinion, submit an opinion to open space. So open space can wait until they get the opinion or the recommendation from conservation. But we can share this with, you know, a little more fleshed out than what it is today. share it with the full committee, because I think it is an open space issue.
Do you think it would be appropriate at this point to suggest a site, a walk, so that we start somewhere with how we put together our opinion?
Well, that's what we were going to do a joint site walk with open space. Oh, I don't know. We can. Well, that's a good question. You mean we do the work group does a site walk before the full group?
No, I think there should be a site walk, and all groups to be involved should be noted and come.
Well, that's what the conservation group will be doing. The Conservation Commission is going to have a site walk, and we can invite all the different.
Okay, as long as that takes place formally, so that we don't have, question about involvement.
No, and I think there will probably be more than one site walk.
Okay, yeah, I think it's quite likely.
Yeah, and Marjorie, I don't know if you heard Helen, but Marjorie was saying we need to, right now it's too dark, too early. We probably want to wait until there's a little bit more that people can even assess about the land. It's January, so it might be tundra versus tundra. That's not going to be so informative.
So if we get
this is not urgent. It's not urgent. So let's just do it at the right time.
Absolutely.
So people can feel comfortable with what we're doing.
This is just planting the idea. This is planting the idea that this is something that, conservation is working on.
Can't very well likely request and demand that a wheelchair accessible tour be put together. So I have to relate to all of you, and then say that you could take a camera. Take your phone and take a few shots for me as you're. Okay, thank you so much.
We will.
Put a GoPro camera on Susan's head.
What'd you say, Tom?
We'll use a GoPro camera on Susan's
There
head.
you go. That's excellent. Thank you. Excellent idea.
All right. Okay. All right. So we'll stay tuned to see when the sidewalk is on that, and see what else we come up with. All right. On the item 2 is the budget process. Seems to me that this is the time of the year when the budget starts getting going again, or yes?
Yeah, they started earlier this year than normal. It's a very, you probably, I don't know if you've heard through your own channels, but it is going to be a very difficult year with the town. The town's grand list has not grown over year over year like it typically does. So there's not as much revenue coming in as the previous years. So there will, it will likely be a very difficult budget season. I would like to kind of recircle back to last year that we did get something approved that we have not used. We have not made any headway on that. We haven't started it yet. That was the educational invasive species educational piece. That funding was approved out of the open space maintenance fund. So I would encourage you. We were basically asked not to put any new initiatives in the budget due to the situation for this upcoming season. But I would like to encourage you to think about starting work on last year's funding first.
So how much did we get?
I should have had that at my fingertips. I apologize.
Yeah, I think we got 25,000.
Yeah, that's the number that's sticking in my head. I just don't have it right in front of me.
Well, that's good.
24 or 25,000.
Yeah. So so I honestly, I do think that's reasonable if we need to kind of make some, difficult decisions this year. I did recently find like a list of invasive, it's been difficult finding like who's going to help with this stuff in a way that it kind of aligns with the standards that we have and the budget that we have, which is, too difficult criteria to thread the needle on. And I just want to say, because Marjorie's so modest, they did do a bunch of work on the land trust, or Marjorie and her, elves did a bunch of work on the burning bush at Onion Mountain, which was one of the projects that we were going to work on with this funding. And if there's costs associated with that, and maybe the land trust is absorbing that, but I just want to acknowledge that. And if say that maybe some of those costs could be dedicated to that. And the other point I want to make is the things that we asked for last year that didn't get funded was an intern that could help us with like a really comprehensive like natural resource inventory document, or we had talked about, some other things. So since we're not going to be able to ask for new funding, I had already kind of made, been making my little like wish list of stuff. I don't know if the town might be open to us, reallocating some funding, because one of the reasons why we didn't get the funding for the intern, I think, was they felt like there wasn't a specific enough kind of task or something, or maybe they wanted to focus on the invasives. I'm not sure. And I'm not making a formal request. I'm just asking if it's possible for us to think about if and how and why we might want to rebudget. And from your experience, do you think that would be a possibility? And like I said, I'm not asking to do it. I'm just asking.
If you're asking me the question, I would say this is not the year to be asking for anything new. Although, there's different pieces you can use. The 25,000 for the invasive species education and strategies, that can be used in a number of different ways. Some of what you just said, the educational signage, Marjorie asked that we put up over at Onion Mountain. That's a very, it was, I don't remember what it was, less than $100 to put a sign up. But that's, those kinds of projects around town, or bringing a speaker in seminars, those kind of things should be utilized out of that money. And I think that's maybe that some of that stuff's on your wish list. The intern thing is not going to be a possibility this year. I would discourage you from bringing that, from going forward with that.
Susan, may I ask you a question? You, in your review just now, you didn't mention the ecological study. Has that, for some reason, come off of our wish list, or is it timing? What is it?
It's I don't like the invasive thing. I've gotten a handle on who we could ask to do it. There's just not that many people who are doing, detailed ecology work. I don't have a practical plan to move forward with that.
Okay.
And in order to get something in the budget, you need to have a very specific plan to get it done. So that's the issue. And I mean, once again, I was looking at the DEEP databases. Let's take Onion Mountain as an example. And Onion Mountain, the Canton side of Onion Mountain is covered in stuff that was found there. And it's like blank on Simsbury's side. And it's not because we don't have amazing, important things. It's because we haven't done the work to document it. So it's still on the list. And, we might be able to chip away at it little by little, but, and we do have some flexible money in the open space fund, aside from this $25,000 that is dedicated to the, education invasive stuff that Tom was talking about. So we do have money we can spend if we, I'm like very careful with money. So I haven't been like rushing to just spend money on stuff. I've been trying to really think. And I want to say, Tom, those signs for like $100, those are really nice signs for $100. Just one. So,
Marjorie designed it. All I did was get it
really? Well,
done.
that was then free design work by Marjorie. That's Marjorie. Thank you. Those are nice.
Okay. So I think we did more of them around town about burning bush. But the one of the things last night at conservation, I mean, at every conservation meeting when we have a application before us, we're always encouraging the applicants to remove their invasive species from their yard. The problem is they always say, I would if I knew what they were, but we have nothing to give them. I know the Simsbury Land Trust mailed out the invasive plant booklet to everybody in town, but not everybody kept them. But it would be nice to be able to hand something out. I would
totally support that. I would totally
print some of those documents, some of those booklets. I mean, even if they say Simsbury Land Trust, I mean, I could change it to make it town, but it doesn't really matter. It's that would slow things down. But if we printed up some of those books to hand out, that would figure in the 25,000, the educational. So I will see if I can get some printing prices and numbers, because we need to distribute information to people. And although we have stuff on our website and all, people don't go to the website if they don't know to look for it. So
Marjorie, on that note, I'm having the Beaver Pond Wildlife Film Series again at the Grange this year and other events.
Yeah.
So if you get a couple of prices for amounts, because I would be happy to hand those things out at the Grange events. And I've also been giving light pollution talks, and I know I brought up the light pollution issue related to planting native plants, etc. There's a lot of interest in that issue, and I think that anything that's sort of related, let's just try and like connect the dots among these things, because once people try and understand that this web of life is all of it, it's not just plant to plant, put a light in and I don't know, send your composting halfway across the street. I mean, it's just, we need to get a more integrated, common sense approach to things. And once people start seeing all these different pieces, like at some point it'll finally click for people.
And with $25,000, you could even have Doug Talame come and give a lecture, and it's or even a Zoom, and do it in cohorts with the in collaboration with the garden clubs and the land trust. That would be.
We could do something like that at Eno Hall or the high school auditorium, or.
Oh yeah.
That would be packed, just packed with people.
Well, we hope. But there's some other, there's some other educational thing. But I know the Farming in River Salmon Brook Wild and Scenic group ordered some of the land trust brochures to hand out too. So it's been small, then a few more signs would be good in various places around where we have them. But speaking of Onion Mountain, it's very cheap to cut down the burning bush. We have very little equipment needs. It's mostly volunteers that we need. So along that line, I'd like to set up a date sometimes in the spring, maybe to do a bigger event. Last time we were out cutting down the burning bush on New Year's Eve. We had 8 people, and it's amazing how far we got. But there is quite a bit of burning bush there. We just need more bodies is really what we need. And the nice thing is, the more bodies we have, the more people who are educated about how to remove these, or at least how to cut them back and why. So the hands-on approach is also an educational aspect. But maybe we could have coffee and donuts. I don't know if it's fun. I'm not sure, for the people that show up, or it's T-shirts or something. I don't know. Seems like a waste, but what we really need are more bodies. So I'll see if I can come up with a date that we can have a maybe Earth Day weekend or something. I know everything goes on that weekend, or maybe the weekend before, because that's when it's really easy to tell the invasives from the non-invasives, because the invasives leave out early.
Marjorie, I feel kind of dumb, but I didn't know that there was a work group the day before or on New Year's
No,
Day.
it was very last minute. When the high school environmental club wanted to do it.
Okay, good.
And then
good.
we got some people from the Simsbury Land Trust, my regulars who go out and do it on the land trust property. So.
You know who would love to be regulars for announcements like that is Connecticut Forest and Park. It's a great organization. I know you know about them. My husband's the treasurer.
Oh.
And, I'm sure that a couple of people from there would have come, like me and others.
All right, well, I'll thank you. I'll put you on the list, and then you can distribute as you want.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I can ask the scouts too. So
yeah, we've had scouts out there, we've had high school students out there. And it's wonderfully rewarding. I mean, we've cleared a large section, but it's not nearly large enough. I mean, to really make a dent. And we'll have to go back in the spring and pull things out. But at least now we can get into certain areas. Oh, Tom, do you know how I can find out who owned that property before? Does the town have a record of whose farm that was, or what it was on Onion Mountain, but when it became a big park? Because that foundation is really neat.
I don't. It predates me, but I can ask.
If you can ask, because we were talking about the high school students putting together a sign Because that foundation that's right near the road is really interesting. Now that we can get in there because the burning bush is gone, it's much more visible. It'd be nice to have a little historical sign there.
Yeah.
I can try to find out. Helen, there's no way you know, Helen.
Regarding the bodies needed to do this kind of work, you're still getting the regulars, even if you reach out to Karen's idea, what is it?
Connecticut Forest and Park.
Correct. If you reach out to them, you're still reaching out to people who probably are doing it somewhere else in their community, or they're still regulars. And what we really need to do, maybe going back to some of Susan's ideas, we need to do something dramatic, something high profile to open this subject up to the town. So an educational meeting with a guest speaker or something that will get more people, I think, is the way we can build that group from the greater public rather than from the individual organizations that we draw from normally.
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting a town-wide, a town day. Everyone go to their backyard, pull out some things, but come and help us on this day, learn how to do it in your own yard.
I like it. I'd love to, we had talked about getting kind of a strategic plan. What I'd love to do if we had a townwide forum is talk about what like an ideal strategic plan would be. Like, I think I told you I talked to Christian Allen about it, about what are the worst invasives? What's a systematic way to try and get them, by thinking about like watershed structure. Maybe that's beyond, kind of general education, but anyway, we'll continue to figure this out.
You.
All right. So I'll get some dates for maybe a townwide thing. I'll work with you, Tom, see if that works.
Okay. For your information, I went back to 1967, and that's it. There's nothing behind 1967, so I'm gonna have to do a little more on Onion Mountain.
Yeah. I wonder how
those ruins look like they're from the 1800s, Tom. So I think you're 100 years too late.
Yeah.
Maybe the Historical Society probably has something.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, we're gonna stick the students on them. But
I'll dig around, see what I can find.
Thank you. All right. So I'll get some prices on the brochures. I'll see what else we've got and see what else is out there and see what we can have at least on hand at the town hall to hand out for various applications, because only certain ones come before conservation, but a lot goes before planning and zoning, or zoning rather. So they need them as well. And we also need a meeting with zoning so that conservation zoning. So anyways, we'll get to that. All right. Enough of that. On that, how about open space update to the open space? Oh, sorry. Yes.
I just had a quick question before you close the item on the budget.
Yeah.
What is our calendar possibilities in order to accomplish anything for the budget?
Well, Helen, we're not submitting something for the budget this year. We're not submitting something for the budget, so we don't need to worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
But you do have the ability you have roughly, 3 years to spend down the appropriation you had last year.
Good. That's good to know.
Thank you.
All right. So update to the open space disposition form.
I can take that. So that was attached to the work group packet. I had, there were a couple of tweaks we talked about last time, which was, Helen had asked about using the word public land, and I changed that to municipal. There was another edit, which was one of the questions said, what is the land used for? And I changed that to, I forgot what I said now. But the point for attaching it to this meeting was so people could look it over and see if there's any additional changes, and then to just show it to whoever comes to the next full meeting, because I feel like this is kind of like, you know, a foundational document that we need to present to the full committee meeting. So my intent was not to go over it all today unless people want to, but given that I'm taking care of my dad, I would not like to spend a lot of time on it today, but would ask you specifically to look it over, what was attached to this meeting, and then be ready for any additional changes, and we can attach it to the next meeting and see if anybody else comes to the full group meeting and has any questions or edits or whatever. And then we could, you know, maybe finalize it then, or maybe there'll be additional edits, whatever. But I was just trying to like move that ball along to get that document finished as sort of another document in what I'm calling kind of our like town, you know, kind of toolkit or sets of documents for open space, like our farming policy, our forest thing, our grasslands thing. We're working on our light pollution. This is a really comprehensive document to think about what would you do if you're having disposition of municipal land, etc. So that's that topic. And if anybody has any edits or additions right now, I could work on that, and then we can attach that edited version before the next meeting.
I think you've done an amazing job, and I am happy to look at it again in more detail, but I think we're very close, and I don't have anything to add for tonight.
And I don't either, but I would like to request, since I have Tom's attention right here, to send me the packet, which I never got.
They will take care of it right this very moment, Helen.
Oh, great. And then I'll have a chance to look at it, Susan, and then respond if I need to, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and just since you mentioned dark sky possible regulations, the Conservation Commission has put together a draft of possible regulations that we will be sending to zoning.
Can you send it to us too?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we're still draft, so we'll the next week, next meeting, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Would we be able to comment in case we have any tweaks on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I'm still in a little tete-a-tete with Leo Smith about the regulations, because there's some very specific little language things that are important. Like one of the things, it says lights should be 3,000 kelvins. I mean, right now you can get 2,700 and it should be no more. You know, we've talked about these little things before that we need to be aspirational and not give people outdated technical advice or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I think we have below 3,000.
Well, now I think
we have special
2,700.
So we have 2,700 in there, and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. And I had one other thing that I've been bugging him about too. Oh, one of their first principles, this is something this is like with all Dark Sky International, is their first principle is the light must be useful. And they need to change that to the light must be necessary, because you could make a justification that anything is useful. And I gave a big panel with an expert from Tufts at the History Museum, Connecticut Museum of History, Culture and History on Asylum Avenue, maybe a month or two ago. There's a lot of interest in it, but I realize, and this is where I'm just going to say this is just a person, and I've committed to this personally, is people need to use very direct language. And what is happening is everyone wants to get along and not upset anyone. So one of the questions at the forum was about Christmas lights. Okay, so now the expert from Tufts, the Dark Sky International person, Leo, Craig Rapaz from Lights Out Connecticut, and I are on the panel. And everyone is saying, well, we don't really say anything about it. You know, what's our Christmas? People said, are Christmas lights okay? And Leo's like, well, we don't take a position on Christmas lights. Well, we don't say anything about Christmas lights and all. And I said, no, Christmas lights aren't good. But, you know, Are you supposed to eat potato chips and ice cream all the time? No, but if you do it sometimes, it's okay. Like, let's just be honest about what the best thing to do is, and then we can all agree on that, and then people can make their decisions about when they need to, make compromises. But you can't start with being like, yeah, we don't know if Christmas lights are okay, and they're kind of okay. It's just, and I'll tell you, the person from Tufts wrote to me after, so many people came up to me and they said, thank you for just being clear. And the person from Tufts wrote me and she said, you are my role model at trying to just speak clearly and with conviction about things that you know about. So I'm just saying, like, we have a lot of expertise and experience on this board. And, just tell people the truth straight out so that people aren't wondering. I mean, I'm just getting very frustrated. That's my soapbox for today. I'm just, when you're working with someone days on end who's critically ill, it sort of brings your brain to a very clear focus.
Thank you. All right. I'll get you the draft.
I am the nicest, ruthless person you will ever meet.
Okay. On that note, and thank you for being the nicest, ruthless person. So, do we have anything else to add to the discussion tonight?
I had two things. One, I saw on the email, I haven't looked at it. Some of the sustainability committee has some kind of plan for the town. I'm not sure what's in it. They're going to be taking comments. I don't know if they're having a meeting. Maybe I'll send out maybe I'll look at it and then send something via Tom, but I didn't know if there was anything relevant to open space. If there is, I thought we might either individually or collectively want to comment on that. So that was one thing. And the other thing is I wanted to advertise for the Beaver Pond Wildlife full series again at the Grange, back by popular demand. Starting, we're going to do it the first Fridays. We're going to have film Fridays on the first Fridays of the months. And the first one is going to be April, early spring. And I just found out from Ray, the filmmaker, he has it's a 5-part docuseries. He has a new episode that we'll probably show it like as the grand finale. It's not scheduled yet at the end of the year. He's still working on the film, but it features a beaver family named Bucky, Becky, Beavis, and Esmeralda. And he texted me the clips. It's unbelievable what this guy has filmed. So we should really, and actually related to venues in town.
Oh,
Tom, go ahead.
January 15th.
Oh yeah, I'm part of an event. I forgot about that. But does the high school have a really nice movie screen in their auditorium? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't been in there in a few years, so I don't know.
Okay. I'm just, the Grange, we have a screen and I'm looking at the painting the back wall of our stage with like a projector paint because I've kind of tested it there and it creates this really amazing kind of immersive, edgeless experience at the Grange. I think it'll be really magical, but the library can do what it can, but it's not a movie theater, it'd be nice to have a movie theater experience. So I was just, in case anyone knows about the high school, I can ask about that. But.
I would imagine that they do, just from, I know they do presentations in there. I would be surprised. I would be shocked if they renovated and didn't put a movie screen in.
Yeah.
The town budget, the budget referendums, the hearings they've had them at the they must, but they project stuff on the screen.
Is it a big screen though?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. All right.
Okay. Susan, does the Grange have on its website this first Friday movie series? How would a person
Not yet. We're finalizing the dates for first Fridays. The first one is it's going to be April, May, June, and probably September, November. And that's, I'm just finalizing that now. And we're also going to be starting a series of Music Mondays, the first Monday of the month. So.
But before all that.
Yeah, before
January 15th, the Simsbury.
Yeah, what's next?
is having a film at the library on old growth, the old growth forest. And Susan and will be there starring in that. You're in that film, aren't you?
No, I'm in
Oh,
the
you're
next
not.
film. I'm not in that film.
All
I mean,
right.
no, I'm not in the next film either. I'm in the one called Eastern White Pine, The Tree That Built America.
Yes. All right.
Um,
But yes, but
I've been
you'll
helping
be-
Ray with his films, and I mean, all of his films are magical. So that'll be at the library January 15th.
All right.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. I think I saw quickly in passing a letter from a Simsbury resident that Wendy shared with us, everybody, a gentleman who was talking about the person who lives next to that small parcel near Owensbrook. He isn't going to build on it. What's that all about? Do we need to talk about that? When would that come up as an issue?
I don't know.
I can.
But
I don't think we need to talk about it. I think that was just for our information
Okay.
from the neighbor from the parcel that we've been talking about selling.
I think he was at our last meeting.
Yeah, I heard him. Okay, so she was just being kind to share reiteration of information. Okay.
All right.
But it was an issue about that neighbor agreeing that a butter who is trying to buy it, so to speak, is saying that he will. In other words, he got an ally to speak positively on the issue for him because he would agree to keep that parcel as we would like it, or something like that.
Yes, exactly, Helen. That was the gist.
That's it.
Right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Good luck.